Let's go live. It's just going to take a second or two to get the Facebook linked.
All right, I'm going to begin.
Have at it. We should be going live any second now.
No, I don't have to sit in front of it. Yeah.
anything else.
All right, everyone. Welcome. Really excited to have everyone here. I think we're just a couple minutes over. We'll give it one more minute for people to still join, and then we'll get started. Where's everyone tuning in from? It's pretty good. 15.
Hey, JD, you're not driving while you're on this, are you?
I'm not.
All right.
Cool. 7:04. Let's begin. I want to welcome everyone to the Southern Branch AGM. It is November 9th and 7:04 p.m. getting started. Instead of taking roll call, we can see everyone that's on this, and we can definitely make a list of it and check everyone that's in attendance. Is anybody on this call not a registered member of USPA this year? And just unmute and say yes. And just for the record, you can be here. You just won't be able to take part in any votes that we cast. But I think everybody on this call is a USPA member. Cool. Okay, sounds great. So definitely want to call this meeting to order. We're going to start off with some old business, and I'm going to pass it over to Andrew and Kenny to kind of go through some of that. And then I'm going to open the floor to any discussion that anybody wants to cast here. Note, any proposal or anything anybody makes during this meeting, we will vote on it. And then if the vote makes the motion move forward, then I will bring it to the AGM with the EC and the rest of the members of the overall EUSPBA. So that's kind of the model that we'll go through here. So I will pass it over to Kenny to go ahead and kick us off. We'll pass it to Andrew, and then we'll jump into open discussion.
All right. Originally, Andrew was going to jump. I'll go ahead and just say a few things. Just want to touch base a few things that we've done over the last year. We completely revamped the website. We've got some educational resources out for everybody. A lot more of that is in the pipeline. So over the coming months, just kind of be looking out for that. Another thing we just finished kind of posting was our first in-house scholarship. That one was received for, I think he's going for base for that. Whatever instructor he's going to use, it's $250. Hopefully over the next couple months, there will be a lot more of that, with more money coming out to help provide education to our branch members. We've got the podcast off the ground. We've only had 2 people kind of take part so far. Lockdown has had people quite busy. We've had Andrew Douglas from Piper's Dojo, was an amazing episode. Michael had a great conversation with Ed Krentz. We've already got our next 2 participants lined up. We've got Andrew Elliott and Tyler Fry, who are on board for some upcoming podcast interviews. That's going to be really good. And something I really want to touch base on before passing over to Andrew was the last year has kind of been horrible for pipe bands. There's not a lot going on. There's been some online competitions, just a few recent in-person. But one thing I wanted to report on was the number of Southern Branch bands that got out and competed, whether it was online, in person. And total, we have currently 18 Southern Branch bands across the regular band contest placings that have just done phenomenal. In grade 3, we have Nashville Pipes and Drums and Waken District tied for first place in overall standing. In grade 4, 7 of the placed bands are Southern Branch. First place is currently Chattanooga. Third place is Atlanta. We've got Rosie O'Grady in 4th, Clan Lindsay in 6th, and then Charleston and City of Greenville tied for 7th. In Knoxville is kind of rounding that out in 10th place. Grade 5, same thing. There's 25 bands that placed out of 45 grade 5 bands. 9 of those are Southern Branch. Second place is Harvey E. Rich Memorial. Fourth place is Jamestown. We've got Chattanooga in eighth, and then Cross Creek, Nashville, Queen City, Rosie O'Grady, City of Mount Dora, and Jacksonville all in top 20 placings. And that even carried over well into the quartets, with City of Memphis being tied for second in the grades 4 through 5. And then Miami Valley in fourth, Chattanooga, Harvey E. Rich, and Black Thistle all in the top 10. So we had a really strong showing this year in what, you know, a lot of associations, a lot of branches just kind of stood down with everything going into lockdown. But you guys did an absolute amazing job in all of this. So I just want to take a minute to commend all of those bands. I plan on making a post here in the next probably day or so just to commend all of that. Great job keeping this going and really showing other associations what the Southern Branch is all about. Andrew, you want to go ahead and take over from there?
Yeah. Hey, like Kenny mentioned, it's been pretty rough on individuals and the bands as a whole. It's been difficult to balance life as well as our hobby. We have a lot of interest in our musical hobby, but at the same time, we have to think of health and safety. That kind of played into this weekend, what happened in Charleston. It was very unfortunate, but you know, health is paramount, and we understand that. But you know, it was very unfortunate. But I do want to say kudos to the guys for you know, board and trying to put that on, because we want to get back together. We want to get out there, and you guys have done amazing, like Kenny said. So some of the initiatives that we've been pushing this year to really get, first was the website, just so you guys had a one-stop shop to access material, and we wanted that first, and that's what we got out there for you guys. And that's where our central point is, to make sure you can access all the information that we can post for you and get out there. Part of that is the podcast, the scholarship, the news and information articles, the history of the Southern Branch, anything we can post out there. We're really trying to expand on the educational series for all the grade 4, 5. We are trying to publish as much as we can from material. However, at the same time, we're using good material that's already out there on YouTube to help and educate. There's also going to be some future workshops that are going to be publicized for save the dates, so please keep an eye on that. Some of them are actually going to be in person, so if you can attend, please go. I know some of the games are already looking forward to the 2021, so we'll definitely make sure we get that information out there to you guys. But something else that Kenny mentioned was the scholarship from the branch scholarship. That's very, very great initiative that we were fortunate enough that, you know, we can put out there. And hopefully you guys take advantage of that. There's also additional scholarships out there from certain games that you can look at. So please, you know, help the younger ones on, and really make sure you guys are looking for those opportunities to save some money, because we know that definitely helps. We were actually fortunate enough to host a branch online contest free for all bands. We're hoping that we can do that again, but you know, at the same time, we need you guys to participate if we can do that, because it wasn't free to the branch. It was just free to you guys. So, you know, we really want to provide that opportunity for everyone again. We know it was pretty close to everybody just getting back into practicing, but we're going to try to do it again. So we'll discuss what's a possibility, and we'll try to get that out to you guys. Something else we were really looking forward to working through this year was the branch council. We got the council together, selected. We got a mission of connect, serve, and grow, so they can actually talk with the bands, talk with soloists, see what concerns you have, any issues, bring it up. Don't be bashful. That's what they're on the council for. So even if, you know, home bands, talk to them, bring some stuff up, because we're here to listen. We're here to help you guys out. So please connect, serve, and grow. Let's help each other out. And that's part of why we're trying to do so many initiatives to get things out for you guys. So we're going to continue to keep doing that. We do have the Southern Spotlight on the website as well, which is for any band who wants to make a video to advertise your history or mission of the band to try to recruit, and put it out there. Get it to us. You know, I mean, we can put it out there, but you guys got to actually put the video and get us that information. So please take advantage of that, because we want to make sure we get that out there for you guys and help you. I know recruiting is kind of iffy in some locations, because, you know, we can't all pay for instructors, and we all can't, you know, hopefully move around. So let's help each other out, you know, get some spotlight, get some recruiting, help people find a band that works for them. Okay. So I will pass this back over to Michael so we can move on and have a good evening.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Kenny and Andrew. You know, just piggybacking on that, it's been a tough year for all of us. And I think, you know, migrating to more of a digital kind of era has been difficult for some. And obviously, you know, some bands have taken a hit from this, and solo players as well. And I mean, we've lost people over the last year from COVID within our branch, right? So I think it's important to recognize that we still have strong membership. We still have a strong presence in band and solo contests, and we're doing amazing things. But if anyone ever has ideas or recommendations or anything they want to share with us to help us, you know, increase our reach and make a greater impact, please don't hesitate to reach out. I mean, there's so many channels that you can speak with us, and you can message us. And essentially, you know, we were elected to these positions to help serve you guys. So I think that's really an important reminder that, like, the purpose here is to help spread this art and enable people to be successful and be able to go out there and continue playing the music that we love. So just remember, like, that's, you know, at our core, what we're trying to do here. So I think that's really important to kind of hit on. So with that being said, thank you, Andrew and Kenny, for going through old business. Appreciate that. I want to open the floor for any brief discussion or anything anyone wants to share, or anything going on. It'd be great. And if there's multiple people that want to share anything or have a proposal or any type of communication, let's just make sure we go one at a time and don't speak over each other. So I didn't know if anybody had anything they wanted to share before we get into the one and only proposal that we have for this evening. Okay, Eric, I see a hand raised, so go ahead. You can unmute and chat.
Hi, this is Eric Stein. I'm fairly new to the South and to this branch, although I did in the early 2000s. I was in Atlanta, played with the Atlanta Pipe Band for a few years, but most of my piping career, which is I spent 55 years with the Saffron Kilt / Saffron United Pipe Band. And my wife and I were the creators of the Metro Cup in 1987, just for a little quick background. So I have a request into the EUSPBA through the branch for some money for a new contest. The Gaelic name for it is on Chris Grania. In English, that is the Sun Belt. And the Sun Belt will be held November 12th, 2022 in Orlando at the Sheraton Orlando North. It's actually in Maitland, right outside part of Orlando in Florida. The plan for this contest is right now is a medley event. It's a solo open invitational for top players in the world. Fundraising has been going pretty well so far, so I'm very confident we're going to add a PRIC event, and we'll see else what comes with it. So what we're doing right now is I'm looking for sponsorship and funding for the contest. I just got the state certificate from Florida. We've incorporated, and I've applied to the IRS for nonprofit status. That's going to take about another 3 months, which still gives us plenty of time. And we can accept donations now with the request pending. And I don't see any reason why it's not going to come through. The purpose of the organization is solely to promote piping. This contest is just to showcase it. My plan, if other parties are interested, would be to have it on an annual basis, but move the contest around, particularly in the Southeast. So I'm thinking of, you know, major cities like Atlanta, Charlotte, Nashville, whoever thinks, who would ever want to join the committee and thinks that we can host a successful event in that area, I'd be happy to do it. Currently, I have a sponsor who is funding the winner of the Glenfiddich, which is Jack Lee. He's been invited. He hasn't committed yet, but he said, hey, it's a long way off, but he seems interested in the contest. I have another sponsor that is funding the winner of the All Ireland Solos, which takes place in September timeframe. I'm in current discussions with many of the major contests in the South and also outside. So this is not restricted to the Southeast, but I've had discussions with Sandy Jones for Grandfather Mountain to sponsor. And by sponsor, I mean they would fund their open player of the day to come and compete in this new event. Funding means that they would pick up the hotel for 2 nights, which is $175 a night, and pay all the travel, or offer some stipend towards that travel. I've talked to someone from Loon Mountain, Colonial Games, Stone Mountain, Eric McNeil with Dunedin. I've got a request into the Central Florida Games, and all of them seem very interested and I've replied with, hey, we have to take it to the board, which is very understandable. Boards haven't met yet. I mean, none of them since I have talked to them, but I got very positive feedback. So I think some of them. I have also reached out because I want to make this something special, and I want to make it a global event. I'm working with, I don't know if any of you know the name Brett Tidswell. He is world-renowned piper who's based in Australia. So I'm trying to figure out a way to get funding to get the winner of the RU Brown, which is their big contest, to get a piper from Australia and perhaps one from New Zealand to come and compete. And I just started some discussions today, sending a note off to the woman who runs the Livingston Memorial up in Canada, and I got to figure out which Canadian contests would be a good target. I just got a little bit more to say. If anyone wants to donate, or their band would be willing to sponsor a player, that would be awesome. And we did this very successfully with the Metro Cup, where bands would bring a player in, use them for a couple of nights, band workshops or the weekend before, and then send them off to play in the Metro Cup. I'd like to do the same thing here. In fact, right now, I'd love to invite Glenn Brown, who just won the Braddock Gorham, to come and compete, and I'm looking for a sponsor for that. Again, sponsorship would be airfare and hotels, or if they would come up with part of it, maybe we could work out a way where we could fund some of it as well. I'll stop at this point and see if anyone has any questions.
All right, I don't think there's any questions, Eric. Definitely, we obviously have received your paperwork that has been passed on to the EC, and we had a brief conversation about it last week in our monthly meeting. I think because it's a ways out, there's a couple other priorities, but we'll definitely get back to you soon on where we stand with that and where the EC stands with it. But we have all the paperwork, and we'll let you know if there's anything that needs to be updated. But I think it's great that you're sharing that out, obviously through social channels and things like that. But if anybody can support, I think that'd be awesome.
Great. Thank you very much. If anybody has any questions, you could call me directly at 631-241-5757. 631-241-5757, or ericmstein53@gmail.com. And you can go to the spelling is ANCRIOS is the second word, and then GREINE is the Gaelic name of the contest. And there is a Facebook page. You can go there. My contact information is there. You could ask any questions or comments. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Eric. Thanks for sharing that. And again, always wish you the best of luck with that, but it sounds like it's turned out to be pretty special. Anything else for open discussion? Anybody want to share anything? All right, going once. Going twice. All right. Nobody's got anything. All right. So let's talk about this proposal. We got one proposal submitted to us. And I'm going to go through this. I'm going to read it for those that aren't seeing. I'm also going to share my screen so you guys can read along with me in case you don't want to listen to me read all of it. But essentially, yeah, the overall proposal is, let me go ahead and share my screen before I get into it. All right, cool. You guys should all be able to see that. All right, the proposal is that the executive committee and the music board reinstate the midsection tenor registered instructor rule. All right, I'll read that one more time. The executive committee and the music board reinstate the midsection tenor registered instructor rule. All right, for the new year, and Andrew and Kenny, keep me honest on this. For the new year, registered instructors that are registered within the branch won't be able to play with other bands or play down with other bands as it stands right now going into the new year. Correct, Andrew, Kenny?
Check.
All right.
All right, the rationale for them to reinstate the midsection registered instructor rule is this. The rationale for removing tenor drummers as playing instructors was questionable due to the nature of the impact a single player can have on the entire band ensemble. This rule has been in place for a few years now, and the music board executive committee needs to revisit the rule to assess its effectiveness and necessity. Excuse me. The rationale of one player making a difference doesn't make sense if it's not taking the same stance for piping and snare, where one strategic addition can absolutely make a difference to the performance and likely outcomes. Reminder to everyone, in grade 5, you can go out with 2 snares, one of which being a higher level player, and have the instructor do most of the heavy lifting. In 2019, the Midwest Pipe Band Association established the registered instructor playing rule, which, like the Pipe Band Society of Ontario, requires at least one other tenor for a tenor registered instructor to be on the field, even if not otherwise required for that grade. The Pipe Band Society of Ontario states, pipe bands may add one higher grade tenor drummer, providing that they or them are registered as their tenor drumming instructor. The band must also field at least one other tenor drummer. The argument can be made on the other side that Scotland does not permit instructors outside of the pipe major of a juvenile or novice juvenile pipe band. We are not Scotland, and this is not our national culture, nor is it our national instrument and music. We don't have it in our schools. We don't have people, generally speaking, being paid full-time salaries to continuously build pipers and drummers. I'll insert this, hamstringing the potential of having a qualified instructor on the field, leading people to become better and more invested in the hobby. We are condemning the hobby to mediocrity and condemning those quality instructors not being able to expand their own abilities. I think it meant by teaching and being with other bands. Having a tenor drummer as a registered instructor improves the band and the players and allows for more tenor drummers in a circle, adding to a more musical ensemble. If our association aspires to assist individuals and bands in reaching not only their highest competitive potential, but also raising the level of our art, why not follow what other associations in North America are doing in a consistent manner? Let's move forward, not backwards. Thank you for sitting with me through reading that. All right, so that proposal is also shared on the Facebook page, and we also shared this proposal out in the agenda via email. So I want to open it up to the floor. If anybody has any questions around this, I know that there's a question in the chat. We'll start there. So clarification, is it true that one of your 2 snares can be a playing instructor? I thought playing instructors cannot count towards minimums. A playing instructor would be one of 3. Correct.
That's my understanding, is that, yeah, is that the playing instructor cannot be one of the 2. The 2 are required.
Correct. So if 2 snares are required and you have a playing instructor, you will have 3 snares on the field.
Correct. But that's getting back to the tenor. Before we begin, just some general information. I'm keeper of the data as far as all the competition data. Just so people know, there have been 31 tenor instructors registered in my system since, let's see, the first one. This would be like 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021. So it is being used. So that's just a little bit of data that people might want to know. And so I know one of the arguments against the tenor instructors, oh, nobody uses it. Well, that is not true. People do use it.
How many bands have a registered instructor, Jerry? What was that number?
Coming down through the list, I don't have them sorted by band, but Cincinnati Caledonian Firefighter McPadden, Waken District, New Hampshire Firefighters McPadden, 87 Cleveland, Rhode Island Highlanders, Grandfather Mountain, Rosendew, Queen City, Atlanta, 87 Cleveland, Celtic Friars, John Moore McIntosh, New Hampshire, Kel Neum, Tidewater, Loch Norman, City of Albany, Dunedin, 87th Cleveland, Jersey Devil, Queen City, Waken District Grade 4, and Harp and Thistle.
This is Eric Stein. I have a question, and maybe this was covered. So grade 5 does not require any tenor drummers. If this rule was to pass, what would that mean then? Could an instructor just play, or would there have to be a band tenor drummer along with the instructor?
Good question.
They need someone to instruct.
Yeah,
But-
that needs to be clarified, I think, if you push this forward, because you've got a gap there.
Can you restate that question for me?
So the question is, where the statement is, grade 5 bands do not require any tenor drummers to compete. If this proposal was to be passed, what does that mean? Now an instructor could come in and play without any tenor drummers from that band in grade 5.
They need
But
someone.
I would assume in the other grades that they still have to meet their minimum requirement, like you do with pipers or drummers, and then you have the instructor. But in the grade where you have no requirement, what does that mean? I would think, in my opinion, is they have to at least have one tenor drummer.
Yeah, I
put
don't
out an
think.
instructor.
I mean, obviously, it needs to be clarified in rules, but my rationale to that is like, how can you be an instructor with no instructees? You know what I'm saying? So I think
Well, the grade
point.
doesn't require it, though. I'm
I'm
just
going
saying
to I'm going to take the devil's advocate on that. Just because somebody's not on the field does not mean the person's instructing. And then I think more importantly, that's making the assumption that the tenor drum instructor and the piping instructor and the snare instructor only instruct their own core. And I don't think that's true. I mean, if anybody's worked with another band, whether they're, I've had snare instructors come in and work with bands, and they've talked with the pipers and worked with the whole core. Same with bass and tenor, and same with piping instructors. So having a tenor instructor there, I mean, yes, there may not be another tenor drummer on the field that day, but and for all you know, maybe they got sick that morning. Maybe they were planning to come. Who knows?
Yeah, but they shouldn't, in my opinion, they shouldn't play. They shouldn't be allowed to play unless there is another tenor drummer, because if the instructor, and let's just take a different scenario. Let's say it's the piping instructor or the drumming instructor, they can't make up the minimum requirement. In
And they
this case,
don't.
I know. In this case, there is no minimum requirement. But if the goal here is truly to foster, better playing, well, then that grade 5 band better be able to put out at least one novice, trainee, first time out neophyte along with an instructor, because that instructor, if you get an instructor who has got, 20 years experience, and they now go out in grade 5, that gives them a huge advantage over other bands that don't have a tenor drummer.
Which you just actually knocked your own argument. You said if the purpose is to foster better playing or better music, if a tenor drummer comes out, regardless of whether or not there are any other tenor drummers there, if they make the band play better, if the band has tighter unison or more expression, but if they are able to perform and be able to deliver a better competition performance, regardless of who else is on the field, how is that a bad thing?
Because the grade 5 is about development. I would just say, I would vote against this unless that grade 5, it required another tenor drummer to play along with the instructor. Just my opinion. Now I'll shut up. But
No. I think so.
This is
hey,
opinions.
Listen, all points are valid, right? And I think there's arguments obviously for both sides. I don't want us to hyper focus on, or I shouldn't say I would guide this organization, the people on this call, to look at this as a big picture, right? Not just for grade 5 or not just for grade 4 or grade 3. I think all of those little nuances can be added in there. I think the big picture behind this is that, why are we doing this just for tenors and not for snares and not for piping, right? It's singling out a group that we have focused on, especially for regrading and reassessment and things like that. And we're creating a rule that is different from a lot of the other organizations and creates a sense of like, well, only 10 have used it, so we're not going to do it, right? And Whitney, to your comment, right? Like many bands have registered instructors. If they actually competed with them in the last year is another story. So maybe only 10 have competed while 30 some odd have registered tenor instructors, right? That might be the difference. And I think it's hard to take the sample size of last year and use that as an accurate data point, considering so many bands were affected by COVID and weren't able to go and compete. So just
Do
something.
do you know how the Midwest handles grade 5 with the instructor?
I don't know right now with the plain instructor rule, but it's something that we can definitely look at. And I know all of their bylaws are there, but I think that's a nuanced point from the whole kind of like reason behind this, right? So I think it is valid 100%, Eric, but I also think that like we need to think about the whole picture of what this rule is trying to do and what side we want to take a vote on, because we're going to have to vote on this tonight.
Yeah, don't get me wrong.
So-
I support the proposal if they made that one little change, because
Yeah.
I think that's what helps bands, particularly grade 5 bands. That would help them to get some kid out there. And
So-
I've seen these instructor rules, both in piping and drumming, come and go many times over the years. So
Yes, I agree. So part of what we can do is when we vote, Eric, we can say, I'm going to vote for this proposal with the added note that grade 5 has to have X, Y, and Z, right? So hold that thought. I know there's other people with their hands raised and want to have a conversation around this. So I think Steve, I see your hands raised. If you want to go ahead and unmute and chat.
Yeah, thanks. This is Steve McClure in Tampa. When this came up at the AGM 3 or 4 years ago, I actually shared back then that I thought it was a good idea. It's something that we should allow. There were people who were opposed to it because they thought that the tenor instructor would just come in and just wow everybody and do something so much more advanced that it would be to too much of an advantage. And really, I didn't agree with that. I mean, all the years I played bass with Dunedin's band, I wrote all the tenor scores for grade 2 and grade 4. And I never played tenor with the grade 4 band, but if I had, I certainly wouldn't have gone out. I would have done something that complemented the band and the pipe tunes and the drum scores as a whole. I wouldn't have tried to go out and do something much flashier or something along those lines. So I think that this is a good idea. And ultimately, to Eric's point, he's right that there is no tenor required in grade 5. I think that's something that would have to be addressed to say, I think the fair thing would be to say that there needs to be one tenor competing, to not have, because that's where really one person could come out. And I appreciate Jerry's point, but I'm thinking the whole thing of improving this musically was for the tenor drummers and the bass players to get better, not to which will ultimately, players within that band that are registered with that band will help them in the band as a whole, but not just to have a professional level tenor drummer out there as the only tenor drummer with a grade 5 band, adding stuff. So did I make myself clear?
100%. And I think you got some love in the comments about just agreeing and giving insight. Yes, absolutely. I think you're super clear on that. Awesome. Any other points, Steve? And thank you for like a little bit of historical insight too, right? Because some people are relatively new to this. Jerry, do you have a response to Steve, or do you have a new comment on this?
Just thinking about it. And I don't, Eric, I actually don't disagree with you on that. I'm just wondering, maybe the time has come that we require grade 5 bands to have one tenor. Just a thought. I mean, I don't know.
I would urge us, and I definitely want to look at this without any type of bias lens, but I would look and see like how many bands take advantage of, or how many grade 5 bands wouldn't be able to compete if they needed a single tenor drummer, right? So I think that just gauging the impact,
Yeah,
but
good point.
Lindsay just put in the comments, according to Midwest rules, a registered tenor instructor must also field with at least one other tenor. So that's in their bylaws.
Probably not a bad idea.
Okay, I'm taking note of that, and that might be the way that we word it and include it with the proposal if it passes. Okay. Any other thoughts on this? There was an ask, can you pull a list of bands, Jerry, using both the piping instructor and snare instructor rule?
Are you wondering bands that have both or bands that have either one?
Just using the rule, Gary. So if a band is using the piping instructor rule, how many bands use that piping instructor rule?
Okay, now what I've got here is I've got the dates that they were added to the roster and like when they stopped. So I'm about to send you that list of piping instructors. Should I just send it to the chat?
Yeah, that's
Yes.
fine.
Okay, here's the piping. Sorry. I thought I had it. Let me come here. Sorry about that. Copy and paste. Damn it, it didn't take.
While Jerry does that, obviously we're going to motion it. Is anybody against this proposal? And I want to state that like this is a completely unbiased space. If anybody has objections to it, they can speak to it because we want to take a vote on this, right? And the folks on this call are going to be involved in that vote if they are paying actual members of USPA this year, right? If you're not an active member of USPA this year, you're fine to listen again, but anybody will take a vote, a motion to move this proposal forward to the board and the music board and the EC. And
Would we look to add some language that says for grade 5
Yes.
there has to be one?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's I'll make a motion to move this proposal forward with the addition of that rule, right? As it stands right now, that's how I would word it here in a minute. And then if we don't agree with that, we can always tweak it. But my goal is to facilitate this proposal if the majority of the folks on this call wanted to move forward. Okay. Nobody's saying anything. I think there is some messages. Let me see. All right. So JD says he's in favor of passing the proposal to the AGM if it has the same grade 5 caveat as the Midwest Pipe Band Association. I agree, JD. I think it's flip-flopped a couple times. When I brought up this proposal to the EC, they mentioned, it was one way, then they changed it back, and then they put it back in place that you could have a registered instructor. And then the proposal to get rid of it came from the Southern Branch initially. And then now we're saying, don't do it, right? But ultimately, our role
I'm here. I'm here.
Hey, Jim.
Oh, hey, sorry about that, guys.
Oh, it's okay. I don't know if you have something, but I'm just saying the goal here is for us to present this proposal that was sent in to us, right? And we're sharing it with you guys, and it's up to the members, right? So, anyway,
Can I say something here real quick?
yes.
So this proposal was brought up by the Southern Branch for a number of years, and it was approved like 2 or 3 years ago. And then all of a sudden, now it's not approved. And then we want to approve it again from the Southern Branch. So it's very frustrating for us on the EC to hear these proposals from the Southern Branch about the tenor drum rule or tenor drum instructor rule, but we don't really know who is proposing these things.
So
So
this proposal was sent in by Joseph Brady.
was this the anonymous email that you said you had like 2 weeks ago?
Yes, I verified it. It was from Joe. But
Interesting.
here's the thing. Here's the thing. Look, I want to make 2 points. One, anybody can make a proposal. If it flip-flops back and forth, I think regardless,
I agree.
we're an elected.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree.
Okay, so there's that. That's the first part. And I think what is the intent behind making a proposal against getting rid of the midsection like plain instructor rule, right? Because if we're going to get rid of the midsection plain instructor rule, we should get rid of the snare drumming plain instructor rule. That's kind of what this is saying, right? And again, completely unbiased, right? I'll be very candid with the group here that like we at Wake, we definitely struggled with leveling up our tenors, right? We were bringing in people from Canada to do workshops, and it did a good bit of help for us, right? We got some scores written, things like that. But we had a player that was here in North Carolina, and she was playing with Macmillan and was able to come and play with us as a playing instructor and truly helped level up our organization. With that being said, if this goes in place, I'll lose a lead tenor, right? And I think other bands will also lose lead tenors, right? Now, if that's what our organization wants, I'm okay with it. Does it hurt? Absolutely. Will it hurt other bands? Absolutely. Right. But I'll tell you that one tenor won't make or break the decision for my band personally. But what I'll say is whatever way that we move on this, I'm good with it. Right. But it's for the good of the order and everyone here versus just personal interest. I think that's really important to just call out. So,
okay. So let me just put a little bit of perspective in here for you. I know you already know this because you've been on the EC calls and everything else. Out of 250 bands, roughly 250 bands, only 6 or 8 bands used this rule over the last 2 years.
Well, the last 2 years we've been in COVID.
No. The pre-COVID. This is like maybe 2 or 3 years ago. So this is what back when Brian Morgan left the EC and left the music board because of the decision the EC made. This was like no one used this rule. No one used it except for like a few bands, literally a few bands.
Yeah.
I'm not like saying this is a good thing or a bad thing or whatever it is, but nobody used this rule. We put the rule in place and nobody used it except for like maybe 2 or 3 bands. And the ones that like didn't compete were like the other like 4 or 5 bands.
Yeah.
So,
Jerry has his hand raised. I don't know if he wants to share some numbers on.
Yeah, Jim, I gave that. There have been 21 times when just in the last few years that the tenor drum instructor has been applied, and it could be more than that because some of them they don't have an end date. So
but how many of those bands actually competed at Jerry?
Hold on, let me. There wasn't a lot of competition over the last couple of years, but anyway, I've got more to say on this. So the fact that some bands are using it, you can't say nobody uses this. People do use it. So that's point one. Point two is that if a tenor drumming instructor is out there, if that makes the band deliver a better competition performance, that's the whole goal of what we're trying to do. Is we're trying to put better performances on the field for not only for the bands, but for the audience, for the listeners. We're trying to educate. That is not a bad thing. The third point is, even if only 6 bands on average a year, it's actually probably more like 7 or 8. But even if there's, let's say, 8 bands that use it, does that mean the rule is bad? Or does that mean we as an association need to get out there and encourage bands to do more tenor instructors? It's like we should be out there shouting from every tower saying, hey, here's this instructor thing. All of you, lower grade bands, you really should think about getting tenor drumming instructors. You should get piping instructors and you should get snare instructors. That's how you learn. That's how you will get better. So the rule is not necessarily bad.
So you're admitting, Jerry, that 6 out of 250 bands use this rule.
It's not
6 out of-
250, try 150. The EUSPBA no longer has 250 bands.
As of like 2 years ago. Okay, yeah, you're right. Okay, so fine. Okay, 150 bands. So 8 out of 150 bands use this rule. 8, literally 8.
That's fine, but does that mean the rule is bad, or does it mean that we need to promote and get
It doesn't
more
mean it's
bands
good.
to use piping and drumming instructors?
It doesn't mean it's good.
So I think we can definitely go back and forth on this, right? We have differing opinions. I think there's some comments in the chat that one comment says, if according to the EC, no one is using it, then what is hurting it being in place?
And I've shown, I mean, people are using it. It's you cannot
8.
say it is not being used. And
8
any
bands.
band that chooses not to use it, that's their fault. And understand, I play in a band that doesn't have a tenor instructor, so I'm not affected by this either way. Okay.
Right, but if you look at this from the grade 5 or grade 4 standpoint, a tenor drum instructor can make a huge impact on a band. They really can. I've discussed this with a number of high-end tenor drummers, and they've all said the exact same thing. 1 out of 2 drummers can play all the different like parts in a tenor drum section for an MSR or a medley or whatever it is. So if you look at the rule as it's written, a tenor drum instructor can play basically 95% of the rule. They really can.
I
And
think the one, sorry, Jim, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
And this was actually accented by 2 of our drumming instructors, or sorry, drumming judges, Eric McNeil and who was it? The other guy,
Andrew Elliott.
Andrew Elliott. Yes, you're right. Where they actually witnessed this, where the drumming instructor played 90% or 95% of all of the riffs, or whatever you want to call them, in the MSR. So, I mean, I'm really not sure what I can say.
I think the same thing could go for snare drumming instructors too. I mean,
well, no, because you have to have at least 2 snare drummers in your core, and the 3rd drummer would be an instructor.
And the instructor can't play lead. That's in the rule.
That's exactly right.
The snare instructor cannot play lead snare.
But in the tenor drum, but in the tenor drummers, they can play lead, and they can play as much as they want to. They can play it all.
sure.
So just throw that out there.
Was the rationale of the initial proposal to get rid of the midsection instructor because not many bands are using it?
Well, that and the fact that the instructor could be playing all of the scores, all of them.
Yeah.
There was no rationale on a percentage or anything else. So frankly, if I was a tenor drumming god, let's say I'm Tyler Fry, I could go into my band and play all the scores because I'm the instructor. There's no percentage. There's nothing there for a band to say, yes, our tenor drumming instructor can play X, Y, and Z of our scores. They can play all of them. And the other guy, to make up the minimum numbers, can sit there and play nothing, just like play air.
So I think, obviously we have different insights on this, and I think your insight, Jim, is super helpful for us to understand the counter to this and why this was in the first place.
And there are bands doing this, by the way. There are bands doing this.
Absolutely. The other question I have is so if the registered instructor is not listed as a member of USPA, but is outside of USPA, I can use them as a lead drumming instructor, right, for tenors, right? Because they're not a member of our association.
Yeah, you can, totally.
So doesn't that create the same problem though?
No, not at all. Because
so real quick, could I bring in Taylor Page, who I've used to consult, right? like from Toronto, right? Could she come in and play as a player in my band, right? As an instructor from outside of the organization, not necessarily listed, but listed as a member in the band. Could I do that?
As our rules say, yes, you can. Whether it's Ken Eller or whoever else, Bob Worrell, if they're willing to come down here and instruct, they're like anybody else in our association. They're able to do that.
Okay. And are there other current bands in the association that are doing that, having instructors come in from other pipe band associations, whether it's in Scotland or in the US? Are we seeing that happen?
I have no idea who you're speaking of, but if they were, then they would be like any other instructor.
Okay. I see a couple hands up. I don't know. I know Jerry has a hand up. Martina has a hand up. Let's go Martina first, since Jerry, you've given a lot of dialogue, so I want to give everyone ample time.
I was just going to say then, it seemed to me that the what we want is, first of all, there's nothing that says that you can't have an instructor and that instructor not play on the field.
Right.
And there's no reason that we couldn't bring down Sam Johnson and he instruct Jamestown's grade 5 and he just doesn't play. We're still going to benefit from that instructor. So maybe why do instructors feel, just to throw it out there, why do they feel they need to play? But more importantly, can the wording be arranged, and I don't have the words, such that the instructor is an equal part of the core that is playing an equal share of the music, not 90% of the music? Because I think that's what we're trying to avoid, is having somebody like Taylor Page or Tyler Fry or Andrew Elliott come in and play all the hard stuff and then have another band struggling with the grade 5 people playing the hard stuff. That seems to be the caveat. Don't have a solution. I'm done.
Right. And that's part of the problem. Because when you don't have like any kind of leashes on who's playing leads and who's playing the rest of the parts, you can have your lead tenor drum play all the parts. And what are you gonna do about that?
Hey, this is Andrew.
Except if the lead tenor, sorry, Andrew, if the lead tenor played all the parts, you would lose the range of notes the tenors are playing, unless you pulled an old Don Mead who went out one year all by herself and strapped on 3 tenor drums. She was not an instructor, and so she could play 3 different notes. Okay.
Agreed.
So you're going to lose your importance of tenors. I'll be done.
Hey, this is Andrew. So we've already had the modification to the proposal to include for the grade 5 instance. We just elaborated a little bit more as far as a lead tip from the snare instructor rule. Like Martina just alluded to, more refinement as far as the playing requirement for a playing instructor is more in line to meet the intent of what we're hoping and what Jim just alluded to. You don't want an instructor going out there playing 95% of all the elements from the tenor elements or the bass, tenor. So if you include those requirements of what are the requirements for that, that's more in line with what you're hoping for from that intent. But at the same time, we have rules out there for people to utilize. That's what they're there for. Just because they're not used, what's the harm in leaving them there? Is it going to go back and forth? Sure. With the strategic plan, if it's not failing, if it's not costing the company money, are you going to make a knee-jerk reaction after 1 year, 2 months, 3 months? Most likely not. You're going to try to see it through. So at the same time, have we been able to compete in the past 2 years? No. Is there further refinements we can make to utilize the rule effectively? Oh, sure, certainly. So I think that's where I think as a team, if, you know, refinements are made, a true open discussion with everybody throughout an advisory period of, you know, looking at it, I think that's going to help refine, because I don't remember having any discussion or hearing from the EC regarding this to the bands over the past 2 years. Like, what do the bands see? What do they feel? I don't remember seeing that. I could be wrong. Please correct me if I am, but I don't remember seeing something that was truly sent out and listened to and guided input over a period of time. A quick survey from SurveyMonkey that you maybe get a few responses, that doesn't do any good. I'm sorry. You know, that really doesn't give a good input for something. For a rule that we're hoping to benefit an organization and grow a section that we really want to foster some competitive musical art, I think we're doing a disservice if we don't actually look at it and try to adjust and help that along.
I'm also interested to know, like, out of the bands that did use it, if those bands didn't compete because of this rule, how would that impact the games, right? How would that impact players, right? Would they go, maybe they go to other bands, maybe they still take part in solos and things like that, but what is it going to have on the impact of the band contests, right? Too, it might be minimal, it could be significant, right? But anything, like, if it's one band extra can play on the field, it's worth it, in my opinion. But that's just my take on it. Again, want to be very neutral on this proposal and just take a vote. So I know we're at the hour. I wanted to give everybody time to voice any.
Oh, hold on 1 second. That actually goes against what you said in the EC call the other night, because you said you actually approved of what we were saying about this rule being basically moot, and now you're saying something totally different.
So what I'm saying, Jim, openly, is that whatever way the membership wants to go with this type of proposal, I'm in full support of, whether it is for it or against it. My job here is to present this to everyone and then take a vote on it. I think both sides have a valid argument, Jim, 100%. But if the motion, I mean, I think there's more opinions that with the grade 5 caveat and language, I think the feeling from majority of the people on this call is that it should move forward. That's
great.
it.
Oh, okay, so that's fine, but that just completely goes against what you said that you agreed with the
My
EC.
personal opinions and my representation of this proposal are two different things.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. No problem.
That's it. That's it. Okay. Any other comments, thoughts, or concerns?
I just have one thing to say, which is that everything boils down to competition. And I see several ensemble judges on the call here. And if a judge notices a band where a tenor drummer is playing all of the riffs or 90% of the riffs, they can always not reward that behavior. And so it may be a training issue for judges to make sure that ideally they would be rewarding it if the tenor parts are spread out. But anyway, that's all.
Okay, so I am going to motion a proposal that the executive committee and music board reinstate the midsection tenor and registered instructor rule with the addition of a registered tenor instructor must also field at least one other tenor when it comes to grade 5. Again, one more time, the executive committee and the music board reinstate the midsection tenor registered instructor rule with the addition of a registered tenor instructor must also field at least one other tenor. Do I have a motion to move this forward?
As well as the playing requirements.
Right now, what playing requirements? Can you elaborate on that?
So we just
Different for each grade.
It's different for each grade. So what is that for a snare instructor rule? what are they not? They are not allowed to be the lead tip, correct? So they
Correct.
would not play what? You could elaborate on that side, Michael, because from a snare side, what can they not play?
Well, you have to play chips, right? And that isn't the same
Okay.
way that it's set up for tenor drummers. Tenor drummers don't have a lead, like a call and answer, lead and lift part. So that's why it's a little bit different.
Copy. So I think just adjusting with a playing requirement to fit the intent of no more than 50% of lead movements, or however it needs to be worded. I'm not a tenor drummer.
If
So
we want to add language in there, that's fine into this proposal. However, you know, I don't think it's reasonable to think of the judges shouldn't be sitting out there saying, in my opinion, the judges shouldn't be sitting there saying, is this person playing more than 50% or not, right? I think the judges can use their own discretion on how they grade a band and how they assess a band. When we start putting that in, I don't think that holds much water. You know what I'm saying? So I would
That's
say
different than a lead tip playing all the chips for the snare line. Is that any different at all? Are we like making different rules for tenor drummers versus snare drummers?
no, I think, well, they're two different things, and there's two different kind of
They're not
call.
really that different though.
Well, Jim, this is Steve in Tampa. You know, even if there's two tenor drummers, hopefully you've written a score that you're utilizing both voices. So it is very different. You know, having played lead tip in a grade 4 band a couple of times in my life, you know, it is a different animal, especially how tenor drumming's evolved over the last, you know, 10 to 20 years. So, you know, it makes it tough. But the thing that I shared earlier was that, you know, I appreciate that some of these judges have seen some open grade tenor drummer go out there and go crazy and, you know, do most of the stuff, but it's just not musical then. I mean, I haven't witnessed that. I did midsection sheets at Scotland County a couple, 3 weeks ago, and I don't know, I just haven't experienced it myself. So, but it is a different animal because hopefully you're utilizing different voices of the tenors to complement the music.
I don't agree with you at all, one bit at all. But when you have got a snare drumming instructor who's not allowed to play all the lead chips, and you are allowing the tenor drum instructor to play all the lead stuff.
Well, there isn't lead stuff. They're playing one of the voices, and it might be the voice where you're playing more rudimentary beats than the others. But
okay, so one of the two voices in the core.
mm-hmm.
So you're going to allow the snare drumming instructor to lead all of the snare drumming instructor stuff, and then the lead tenor to not, or to lead that out. I mean, what are we doing here?
Because he's got a drum pitch specifically to the drum that he's playing. It wouldn't be that musical if he's playing tons of stuff.
Really?
You got to utilize all the
Really?
voices, huh?
Really?
Okay, I think
Yeah.
enough point, guys. Thanks. You know, going back to Michael's motion, including the wording for the grade 5 instructor to mirror the Midwest Association. Was that correct, Michael?
Correct.
Okay, that is on the table. If everybody can please vote, raise your hand so we can see for all the voting members. And then we'll go from there. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to give it to you guys one more time. The proposal is that the executive committee and the music board reinstate the midsection tenor registered instructor rule to allow registered instructors in the tenor space, with the addition of a registered instructor, tenor instructor must also field at least one other tenor when it comes to grade 5 where no tenor is required. Do I have a motion to move this forward? Can I get an aye? Any nays?
How do you do that versus what you have up there already?
So I think for the total number of folks on this call, the people that are for it have the vote to move this forward.
How do you know that? Because
Everyone's
there's no way for you to vote no.
People are commenting in the chat, and they're also raising a hand digitally over Zoom.
But how do you know that?
What do you?
I only see like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hands
and vote for this. And there's like 25 people on this call.
Jim, this is number one, this is being recorded. Two, this is live streaming, and everyone in the chat is saying they're for this, and they're saying aye to agree in the chat, and they're also raising their hands digitally in each one of their respective boxes.
I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hands raised.
Jim, are you looking at the chat?
Yeah, I am right now.
Okay.
And there's 2 pages of chat. Whatever.
There's 13 people that say aye, agreeing with it, and
There's
they-
33 people on this call.
Okay, not everyone is a member of USPA that I can see on the call right now.
All right, well, then there you go. Well, then that makes
not
it
voting.
fully invalid, because if you've got people on this call who are not members of the association, then how can you possibly?
Jim, with all respect, let's go ahead and see how many no's there are.
There's
All
30
right,
people.
Christina
30
is
people on this
opposed.
call.
Christina is no. Okay, anybody
There are
else?
33 people on the call. And there's 13 people with their hands raised that I can count. 13 versus 33.
How many people are not members of USPA right now?
But that's for you to decide.
Well, people could be abstaining. You don't have to vote.
True.
You don't have
So-
to have a vote, you need to have a majority. So out of those that are here, do we have a quorum? Do we have a majority? Jim, I'm gonna ask respectfully that we keep this professional and that we keep this at a branch level for this conversation, please. Okay, thank you.
I'm a branch member, actually.
I understand, that's why I'm saying we need to keep this at a branch level and a professional tone.
There's 15 ayes that I'm counting in the chat right now.
There's 33.
Chris Minnis is abstaining. I believe. No, he's voting for it. He was just explaining something. Okay. All right. Christopher is not a member, so that brings that count to 32. So 15 out of 32 that I can see right now. So 16 out of 32 with both Andrew and Lindsay Corsadar. I think there's one more that we need. Okay, 17 now. All right.
We're on mute.
David Goodman was another one. So now we're at 18. 19 with Owen Culla. All right, we have a majority to move this forward. The proposal to move forward the proposal, the executive committee and the music board reinstate the midsection registered instructor rule with the caveat for the grade 5 to have at least one other tenor if an instructor is playing. Will move forward. I appreciate it. I know there's differing perspectives on all of this, but as a member of the Southern Branch and representing all the other people that are part of USPA, like ultimately whatever the majority wants is what we push forward. So thank you guys for that. Really appreciate it. Any other business that anybody wants to talk about or bring up in this call? Okay, there's a couple save the dates coming up. Piper's Dojo free online workshop is November 14th. The Battle of the Bayou is on November 21st and 22nd, coming up later on this month. The EUSPBA AGM is December 3rd. It's going to be virtual, so everybody can tune in. And then there is an inaugural UNCW Scottish Society of Wilmington Bagpipe Recital and Workshop on February 6th. Which is going to be really awesome. I hope everybody in the South can take advantage of that, or anybody that can make it out to Wilmington. It's going to be great. Bill Cottle is going to be on that, and it looks really nice. I saw kind of the outline for it, so definitely want to encourage people to take advantage of that if they're in the Carolinas or in the region where they could go out and enjoy that on February 6th. So with that being said, we conclude it. Oh, I see also that the City of Dunedin Pipe Band will have a workshop and concert on February 5th in DC as well. So folks that are up that way, I would definitely take advantage of that. I saw some videos of them playing down in Florida and it was incredible. So anyway, appreciate you guys. Of course, we're always here. You can shoot us a message. Really appreciate the dialogue. And I think, regardless, leaving this conversation, we all have opinions and things that we believe should be moved forward. And I really appreciate everyone sharing theirs on this, whether it was for it or against it. So all that being said, really appreciate your support and keep in touch. We'll see you guys soon. Thanks so much.
Have a good night, guys.
See you guys. Bye.
Great job, guys, leading this. Awesome.
Thanks, Mike.